WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.
I'm Kyle Long, host of Cultural Manifesto, just one of the local music programs you can enjoy on WFYI. These programs would not be possible without your financial support. And to say thank you, we want to send you to see Lyle Lovett when he comes to Indianapolis on July 28th. Choose a concert ticket as your gift when you donate at WFYI.org/give. And thanks for supporting WFYI.
This is WFYI News Now. It's May 31st, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, a new counselor appointed to represent Indy's Far East Side. A third U.S. farm worker has been infected with the bird flu. And we have the last of our three-part series on how people in central Indiana are being impacted by the war in Gaza, this time with a focus on Jewish residents.
A renewed fire has been lit inside me, and I'm even more honored and confident and prouder to be, labeled as a Jew.
Those stories coming up. But first, the former CEO of Indianapolis charter network Tindley Accelerated Schools is accused of defrauding its schools by working with two other people to bill for goods and services that were never provided. Brian Metcalf, the CEO of Tindley from 2019 to 2022, was charged with 9 counts of wire fraud, as reported by our partners at Chalkbeat, Indiana. The federal government seeks over $1 million from Metcalf through federal forfeiture laws. And a new counselor for Indianapolis's City-County Council District 15 has been appointed. WFYI's Jill Sheridan has more.
Renee Allen takes over for Lakeisha Jackson, who steps into a new role as state senator. Jackson was chosen to fill a seat left empty when Jean Breaux passed away earlier this year. Both women were chosen by Democratic caucuses. Allen says she's ready to serve her constituents.
I want to make sure that I not only serve, but I listen to every concern, whether it's good, bad, and ugly.
Allen has a background as a health analyst. She's also worked with grassroots groups on numerous social issues, including violence reduction. Allen says economic development, housing, food access, and public safety are top priorities for the Far East Side. I'm Jill Sheridan.
Health officials confirmed a third U.S. farm worker has become infected with bird flu, connected to their work with dairy cows. Side Effects Public Media's Ben Thorpe reports the person's new symptoms raise some concerns.
So far, cases of H5N1 contracted by dairy workers have only shown as conjunctivitis or pink eye. But the latest case in Michigan includes respiratory symptoms. Virologist Richard Webby at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Tennessee says those new symptoms are cause for concern because it makes it easier for the virus to spread and mutate in humans.
I think if we're going to have a pandemic of H5 in humans, it's unlikely to be a conjunctivitis pandemic. It's going to be respiratory.
Webby cautions that there are still a lot of unknowns, and the big concern would be any evidence of human-to-human spread. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the new case does not change their risk assessment for the general public, which remains low. I'm Ben Thorpe, Side Effects Public Media.
And for our final story today, the last in a series of 3 features we're bringing to you this week. The Israel-Hamas war and October 7th have deep social impacts across the U.S., including here in Indiana. From protests and student sit-ins to calls for local government statements to private grief at home. It could also influence elections in November. Jewish people in central Indiana are not ignorant of increased antisemitic words and actions. WFYI's Jill Sheridan and I visited one woman who says she has a renewed sense of purpose as the war in Gaza rages on. Ashley Florman, a wife and mother, was working remotely from home in Westfield when she shared her experience.
I went to Sunday school, I went to Hebrew school, I got bat mitzvahed, I married a Jewish boy, and I always said to myself, I want to, raise a Jewish family, it's important to me, but I never got my act together. We're like, oh, they're so young, they won't remember. We just kept pushing it off. until of recent events.
Yeah, recent events, obviously, that's why we're chatting today as well. October 7th, the war in Gaza. You also went on a pretty transformative program, a trip recently. Talk about that.
So I was a part of the inaugural Mauer Co-op program. So the program started, I want to say it was May 2023, and there were 14 to 16 of us selected. But the main focus of the Mauer Co-op program was to just learn all about anti-Semitism and combat anti-Semitism. They took us to Poland and Hungary, and we visited the concentration camps of Auschwitz and Majdanek, and it was a transformative, surreal, the trip was phenomenal and outstanding, and it couldn't have come at a better time, that trip, because of, in lieu of October 7th.
Is it something that you're bringing to your family as well, you think?
Yeah, definitely. We started celebrating Shabbat as soon as October 7th happened. It was just the one thing that I thought that we could do as a family in Indianapolis, just to honor and just to respect, Judaism as a whole. And then since then, we're more involved. I'm doing more, philanthropic work. I'm attending more events. I'm just trying to immerse myself as much as possible and then take what, I'm learning and what I'm seeing and then educating, everyone I can around me, whether it's verbally or on social media.
I'm sure you're meeting a ton of new people too. What are you hearing from people in the Jewish community in central Indiana about their feelings, and becoming involved? Are you seeing like a trend?
Yeah, it depends on the person, but I am seeing a trend, at least among my friends, where we are trying to be as involved as possible. A lot of us have, been going to these events that have existed for a very long time, but we're all making the time and the effort to do that as well. But I also think a lot of us are scared. We all have young families, and we don't want to feel, there are attacks, anti-Semitism attacks all over the place. Someone over the winter found a swastika in their either backyard or front yard in snow. I think we all have our guard up, but we're not afraid to show, who we really are.
And that was in Hamilton County.
Yeah. Carmel.
Talk a little bit about that, the place we're at right now when we are considering anti-Semitic thoughts and actions here in central Indiana. What are you experiencing on a day-to-day? You mentioned, some anxiety.
Me personally, no one's ever said, and I'm blessed, no one's ever said to me any derogatory negative comment about being Jewish in my entire life. So I'm thankful for that. But yeah, we all have our guard up because you see it everywhere, on social media, and social media is so popular nowadays, and it just keeps getting broadcasted. Am I worried about the war in Gaza today? Yes, 100%. The war in Gaza is turning to the war with Hezbollah. Am I afraid that Israel will be non-existent? No, I don't think Israel. My personal opinion, I think Israel will remain a country in the state of the Jewish people, and I think they're deserving of it. I'm a Zionist, through and through, and just to be loud, to be proud.
This story is part of WFYI's coverage on the local impact of the Israel-Hamas war. To see more, visit wfyi.org/news. And that's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by the following people who live in your community: Drew Dodlin, Kendall Antron, who composed the music for this podcast, and me, Aubriana Herron. Our news director is Sarah Neal Estes. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Monday.
WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.